Hello. Hello, everybody.
Evening, everybody. This is like a record for this year. I think we started at 59 minutes, not like 1 minute past. This
Yeah, yeah. So we're on. We're sorted.
is great.
Um, there's myself. There's Nick. Um, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about tonight. It's gonna be different, and
Mm,
I'm I'm super interested. But yeah, generally things are good.
yeah,
Buying a new car, which is both exciting and stressful. But hey,
yeah.
I'll be able to fit more kit in it. So
Nice. How much? How much bigger is it? Is it like longer so you can get more pole arms in? Or
uh, so the vehicle is longer. The internal space is not hugely longer, except that what it is because you don't have to put the seats forward as far to get
okay,
like 2 meters of length
okay, cool, nice,
kind of thing. You can basically you can fit a 4 foot double bed in the back flat if you need to
great.
in the new car. So um,
That will
it's
make car
good.
camping a lot easier.
Well, and the hope is that it will be big enough that Rosie and I would not need to take two cars to as many events as we can.
Good, good. I can see
But
a few people are with us now, so do say hello
yes,
if
let
you're
us know how you're doing. How are
in
you doing
there.
tonight, Zach? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm tired. I've done a lot of training, as in boring real life work training,
Yeah,
and like yeah, it's been a tough one. There's been some pretty heavy heavy topics that we've covered
yeah.
today. So yeah,
Like
but
that thing I used to remember from teaching is like you come back from summer break and then you're straight in and they're like, here's something really depressing.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, oh, okay.
But
That's a context shift.
one of the things that I do think is always useful is that it really does demonstrate to me how the children and young people feel sitting there, like in their seat for an hour. So it really does impress on me again, like
Yeah.
what you need to do with making sure that lessons are engaging and all that sort of thing. I'm just going to switch on a couple of lights because actually, while we've been setting up, it's got a bit dark. But yeah, I'll be back in a second.
So folks, Zach chose that exact moment while I was muted trying to do some advertising for the channel while we're doing this.
Here we go. I thought that we were so organized, and yeah, I had to get up and switch on some lights. So, yeah, we are going to start off with some usual things, and then we're going to kind of step sideways into um, and discuss what we're going to be doing tonight and what we're probably going to do going forwards with the freelance. So, um, projects and research. Nick, have you been doing any research recently or projects?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I
Okay.
had to stop and think. I got distracted because I realized that when my cat scratched my head by like trying to climb over me while I was sleeping, that I suddenly realized it was really obvious on the stream. But anyway, it was really
Okay.
distracting. Research and projects. I am like heads down now that I have, you know, had a really busy summer, got married, loads of events, my house flooded, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow, I have a free weekend. You know what I should really be doing? I should be getting on with projects. So I've been making books for Empire. We were given a really awesome piece of in-game historical research. I may have talked about this before. Uh, One of the people from the group has done some fantastic illustrations. I've been putting them together, which has required me to go back and reference lots and lots of documents about a particular style of bookbinding that I've chosen to use for this, because it makes for some nicely structured books, and I don't have to do a process called backing the books
Hmm.
because the equipment for it and various other bits and pieces to do with it. But it's one of those really interesting things because it's quite a late medieval book. It's like 1493 from Germany. There aren't many examples of the binding,
Mhm.
but the binding that they're on, I think, are like really common book, like really low status books. So you like it's probably quite a common binding that we just don't have many left of.
Yeah.
Um, but nobody's written a lot about them.
Okay.
So there's like two people. There's like an article from like a bookbinding manuscript, and one guy has written a bunch about it on his blog. And then like people occasionally reference it in like bookbinding subreddits and the bookbinding Discord and things. So it's been a bit of experimentation and a bit of trial and error. And I just discovered that the piece of leather that I thought was big enough to cover the first book isn't. Just
Ah.
fine because other leather, but it's just one of those moments where I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Oh, that's upsetting.
Yeah, but it's been really fun.
Mm.
It's been really interesting. Um, and like learned loads again, just like you do anytime you do like a big project. And then I've learned enough that I feel really confident reproducing this binding on so three before E4, and then probably like another six over the winter.
Yeah. Nice. Very
Uh,
good.
sorry, another nine over the winter. So
Yeah. Very good. So I have been working on some commissions. I got some leatherworking commissions, which I will hopefully post on social media soon once they're finished. Um, and I've also been doing some research, and it's good to see Michael in the chat because um, it. I've been looking at 11th century armor, and in particular how the helmets interact with the mail. So
mm.
yeah, the plan is to um, you know to get it all worked out and then commission it. And our friend Mitch, who has been on the stream several times, he has a really nice 11th century armor, which he's appeared in various videos on YouTube on, uh, and my aim is to make mine so that it is where there's a choice to be made, I'm making the opposite choice to him.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that makes sense.
so then we can kind of do comparisons and maybe do a video or two together on that. So yeah, um, yeah, I'm almost there, and I was able to place an order for the next bits of mail um, as a result of that. So yeah, watch this space, Michael.
That's awesome. And you do only have what, 6 weeks?
Do it 6 weeks. Oh, I'm. It's not going to happen for this year. Absolutely not. So yeah, the um, it very much became a case of the more I learnt about it, the more I was just realizing how not only how little I knew about it, but also how little most everyone knows about it. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's uh, it's been a longer journey, but I am actually now in a position where I do think I'll be able to get most of it sorted for January.
Nice.
Hopefully, yeah. I could have. I could. I'll be very, very honest. I could have got it all done for October, but um, yeah, I was quite disheartened actually by a lot of the difficulty in getting accurate information. Um,
Yeah.
and just like in the 15th century stuff, basically anywhere that sold any shops that sold the reenactment stuff basically just wasn't up to scratch and wasn't correct. Um, and I'm very much a believer that it is cheaper to get the more expensive stuff that is correct, because otherwise you end up buying the same thing twice. Yeah, so there we are. um, yeah, Michael's a big believer in not wearing a belt over the hauberk, which, yeah, I agree with. That's what I'm going to be going with on mine. The sword belt underneath the hauberk, which is going to be interesting and probably tear up um, the scabbard
Hmm.
quite quickly.
Uh,
Anyway,
the that's like the hilt, like it comes out through like a little slot.
yeah,
So you have to like put the sword belt on with the sword out of it, put the whole back on, and then slide the sword through.
yes, yeah, and I have a feeling that the basically the scabbard is going to need to jut a good 4 to 6 inches out of the slot at the top,
Yeah,
because otherwise putting your sword away is going to be very
annoying.
difficult. Yeah. So yeah, getting that sorted should be fun. Um,
Yeah.
hmm.
Hmm.
So events. Um,
We were just talking about this.
yeah, we were. So I'm done for events now. Yeah,
I have uh one. I have Empire 4, which is the same weekend as Avencroft, which some of the reenactment group are
yeah,
going to.
cool.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Um, Michael, I don't know if
yeah,
any 11th century reenactors have ever done it. I think a lot of 11th century reenactors do the whole hoist up the mail over a belt, um, rather than have something that's form fitting and with the belt underneath. Um,
I I think as well, like a lot of a lot of mail in reenactment suffers from being
yeah,
multi-purpose. So if you're planning to also wear your mail as like 13th
yeah,
century or like under a cuirass or whatever, like you're not going to make those small tweaks. You're not going to have the coif attached to it. You're not going to have um the mail gloves attached to it or
yeah,
whatever. Which is not to like justify that, but like I think that's probably where a lot of the compromises that we see in reenactment
yeah,
started was from things that are multi-purpose.
yeah. And I think
Uh,
there's also um, a part of it being reading into a period of history, something from another period of history, because in the 12th
mm,
century they very much are wearing sword belts over the top of um, their hauberks, and so that imparted knowledge, oh, this is what they do, um, can sometimes go backwards in time to a period where we don't necessarily see that all the time. Um, yeah. Ah, we've got someone else in the chat. Here's Sue Subble. Hello. Hi. Nice to see you as well. Um, yeah. So, um, events. Yeah, I'm done for events. There's going to be a market at some point in November, I think, but that's a while away now. And I'm beginning to look at booking things for next year. So, um,
yeah, I mean they dropped the dates for Empire,
yeah,
so those are in my calendar.
yeah. Are you going to do all four again?
That's my plan. It's going to be different going to a new
Mm,
site and this kind of thing, but I'll figure it out.
yeah, cool. So, before we jump into our topic for tonight, just like to remind everyone that I do have some wonderful patrons over on Patreon, and the night patrons get a shout out. So these guys have been supporting me and helping me with my 11th century um, uh, kit. Um, helping to pay for those pieces and put that together. So thank you very much, you guys, and you will be rewarded soon with some lovely new videos about that. So you can find out. I don't think I actually put the link in the description today, but you can. It is
Shocking,
very
that's
shocking.
shocking.
It was, yeah. Um, my 6-year-old was trying to show me the books that he got from the library at the same time as me trying to sort everything out. So apologies for that. I will put that in later if I remember. But thank you to you guys. That is massive and means a lot to me. So thank you. Right now, I was saying to Nick, um, I went to Tewkesbury with my brother, and as we were driving across England, we were listening to a podcast that he had recommended called "We Have Ways of Making You Talk." If you're into the Second World War, it's an excellent um, it's an excellent podcast about the Second World War, and basically these guys they will research a particular thing and then they will discuss it on their podcast for anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour. Um, and it's really interesting. So I thought that rather than doing one of our standard things of like a tier list or something like that, which can get a bit samey, and we've done a lot of those. It would be good to do some deep dives, and that's what we're going to do today. So, due to the fact that it's our first one, and yeah, we hadn't really talked about it very much. We've chosen something that I had already done the research on, which is the my armor, the Lingfield Effigy, and here it is. So basically, I'm going to talk around it, and Nick's going to ask any questions that come to mind, and um,
All that come up in the
yeah,
chat.
if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and we can discuss them. So. Um, So this is the effigy of Reginald Cobham, and for those people who um, don't know about effigies, these are basically a way for rich people to get to heaven faster. I know that we are really interested in them because of the armor that's displayed in them, but um, these were sculptures that were put into churches so that the monks and the priests and whoever was serving in that church um, would be reminded to pray for that person's soul, and so therefore that person's soul would get from purgatory to heaven faster. So these are actually religious relics, not armor relics, religious relics. But there was a belief that the more realistic an effigy to that person, the more effective the prayers would be. So um, basically, if the monk is thinking just generally about the person, then it wouldn't be quite as effective. If they were able to really picture that person in their head and really pray specifically for that person, then the prayers would be more effective. And this is made even more important by the fact that in some families, and this family in particular, there are multiple people with the same name. So there are multiple
Mm.
Reginald Cobhams who are all um, in the same church, and it became very important that the prayers reach the right soul. You know, you can't have the monk or priest, like just being like, oh yeah, and I guess I pray for Reginald Cobham. Like the I don't know, the angels might get confused or whatever, and send Grandpa to heaven faster, which you just don't want. So,
Yeah.
um, so all of these effigies are very individual, and they say a lot about the individual that was that that the effigy is representing. So these aren't tombs where the person is like inside them necessarily, um, but they are religious relics to help that person reach heaven faster. And Michael said, "Is that the guy who governed Gascony? You thought Toby Capwell talked about him? Yes, Toby Capwell has done a video about this recently with Matt Easton because they visited this church. This is the Lingfield Church in, oh, is it Surrey or Kent? Um, but yeah, um, this this was the effigy that Toby Capwell actually suggested to me when I said that I wanted a new armor that could be worn by an English knight in the late 15th century, and that I could use it for jousting. Um, yeah, so let's have a look at it. And again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and Nick will ask them. So, one of the initial things that some people would think straight away is that this is an Italian armor because there are some aspects of English armor that it just isn't really showing. Um,
Mm.
but for example, it doesn't have the barley twists that you have on your armor, Nick. Um,
Mm.
and it's
No scalp
Yeah, no
either.
scalloping. It's quite plain. So this is actually a relatively early armor. This effigy was made around 1447, but so that's when the guy died. But he was about 60. He was in his 60s when he died. So it's very possible that this armor is actually representing an armor from the 1430s, um, because that would have been when he would be more active as an individual. It's very unlikely he was getting up to date armor made when he was in his 60s. And we can also see um, that is probably true because there are three other armors which are very similar to this one, which are all also found in effigies in the south of England from around the 1430s. Um, so this guy died in 1447, but he's being displayed in his prime. You can see from his face he doesn't look like he's in his 60s really. Um, and his armor is again, it's representing him as he wants to be seen from his days when he was, wearing this armor regularly. Um, yeah,
And
go on.
I just wanted to clarify because I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but you were talking about like him being displayed in an armor that he would have had when he's in his prime. And one of the questions that I remember Toby addressing, I think it's in one of the books, and that some of our viewers might not have seen, is like the question of like, how do we know this is actually a real
Yeah,
thing? And Toby's argument, to summarize, is that the details are such that you couldn't have
yeah,
made them up, or you wouldn't have made them up. For example, maybe not on this effigy, but there are effigies where one buckle is different, where it was the armor itself was repaired during its lifetime of use, and that is portrayed on the
yeah,
effigy. So that kind of adds weight to what you're saying about this potentially being like an earlier piece that he would have had commissioned to wear himself, and it's unlikely that he is doing that in his 60s.
yeah, absolutely. Um, And I think we need to be careful with saying that things are inaccurate or things like that, because um, the we should only really revert to that as an idea if something is implausible as a design. But there is nothing in this design that that is in any way implausible. Um,
Mm,
Everything about it works, um, and so to write any of it off as artistic license when all of it actually works um, would be an unnecessary take. Um, yeah. So um, yeah, here he is. And one of the things that I'd say as well is that um, this is from around about the time where the styles are just beginning to show. So this effigy is still quite plain, as a lot of the earlier
mm,
effigies are. A lot of the earlier English effigies are. Um, and it's kind of just after this point where you start seeing the fluting come out and you start seeing those what people would consider more typically English aspects of armor starting to develop from the 1440s and through to the 1470s. Um, and we can just about see the start of that on his gauntlets. So the rest of the effigy is very clean, has very clean lines, but the gauntlets we can see actually have these flutes going down them. Um, and this is actually something that you see on all of the um, all of the effigies of the same type. So you might consider that it might be that he's added the gauntlets at a later date or something like that, but it actually seems to be something that is peculiar to this style, um, which is an interesting thing, and um,
mm.
they have differences to them, so they're not all. It's not like there's an there's an effigy shop, and they're just churning out the same ones. There are little differences, but you can see these stylistic features being in all four of the effigies. Okay, so there we go.
Um,
There is the overview. Now,
so
yeah,
one question that's cropped up, which is like to do with an overview rather than like on specific details, and that's in the chat is asking about how you know what the adequate thickness is for the material that you're creating, because obviously this is
mm,
alabaster or marble or something, and so it won't allow for the correct thicknesses of what you're doing.
yeah. That's a difficult one because actually the thicknesses were different in period as well. Um, so a lot of it comes down to personal choice. Um, in this instance, I wanted this armor to be made out of spring steel, so it could be as thin as the thinnest armors that we see from this period.
Mhm.
Um, it would be possible, though, to make this armor out of a thicker, lower quality steel and still have decent protective qualities to it. But that would increase the weight, um, which, when you're looking at um, armor of this style that has such so much protection, so much of the body is covered. You've got the extra long fold, you've got a great bassinet, um, and all of that. Um, and the fact that he himself was able to afford an alabaster effigy, the chances of him having low quality steel in his armor are very low. Um, it's possible, but we can assume that this individual, if he's able to afford an alabaster effigy, is also able to afford spring steel, um, which is why we can jump on that ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't. I would imagine that um, there would be armors like this made out of different types of steel, um, and to different weights within the period. And people want to appear richer than they are. So um, these knights, when they're commissioning the armor, they would, if they didn't have the full budget, many of them would probably choose to go for the up to date style but lower quality steel, um, rather than the other way around, because these armors
Mm.
are as much a status symbol as they are um, items of protection. Um, However, Reginald Cobham had
Probably
more than
something,
enough money to do both.
yeah. There's probably something in there about human psyche and different styles of SUVs and things that look like they should be four-wheel drive that aren't, and that kind of
Absolutely
thing.
right. So there's um, I heard a statistic that I can't remember anymore, but like it was basically um, the amount of people that, when given the choice to have a lower pay packet or downgrade their company car, most people will choose to have a lower pay packet because that's
Wow.
invisible.
Yep.
Whereas the company car, right? Everyone on the street is like, "Oh, you're in a Honda now, are you?" or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah,
happened?
exactly. So, yeah. Okay, so that's kind of overview of the armor, and let's have a look at some of the different parts of it. So here we have the Grand Bassinet, which I have not yet had made, but I'm currently getting some quotes to see about having that made. Um, I will probably do a video later on, which goes into more detail about the Grand Bassinet, when I have um, a bit more information on it. Okay.
What's what's the crest? Just
Okay. So
quickly.
this that was a Moor's head, or a Saracen's head. Sorry, um, which was a family. Um, pardon me. Which was a family thing. So if you look, all of the effigies from the de Cobhams have this Saracen's head featured somewhere on them. Yep,
Wow.
indeed. Right, so this is something that is very particular to these effigies at this period in time, which is the Spaulders.
My least
Yeah,
favorite part of your.
it's they are a really cool thing, but they're so difficult. They cause you so much pain, me so much pain, because I can't put them on myself. Um, and so far, Nick is the expert on putting them on. So even if other people are
To
around,
say, you have no idea how
yeah,
they go on.
I've never put them on. Um, we're getting there though. We're getting there. So as you can see on these ones, they overlap upwards. I'm pointing to my screen, like you guys can see my finger, like where I'm pointing. So they overlap upwards, and they actually travel up the neck as well. Which, when you twin that with a great bassinet, means that the great bassinet overlaps over the top of these, um, which you would wonder how that would work. but you do see it on a lot of effigies from this period. And we actually at Barnet 2 years ago, I borrowed Graham Turner's bassinet and wore it with these, and it worked fine. Didn't have a problem
Yeah,
with it at all.
it it almost made them make
Yeah.
sense, right? Because without the grand bassinet, they kind of looked a bit. They looked like they didn't
Mm.
fit. Right, they weren't sat in the right place. They looked like they would do very little, and that they would just get. And then you slid the grand bassinet on the top, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
well, that's
It
great.
it just locks it all together. And obviously, when I'm wearing my salet, um, I can't easily wear a bevel with this. They
Hmm.
foul on the bevel, and so what you end up with is like good protection up the sides of your shoulders, and then a completely well, I wear mail there, but just mail over the most vulnerable part of your throat, and you know, it works. It's fine. But the great bassinet really makes sense of these. And it's really interesting that when the bassinet goes out of favor um, with, for the battlefield, these spaulders disappear as well. So it's very much almost like this is part of the great bassinet system rather than these being separate spaulders.
Hmm.
Another interesting thing that really gives a clue that he's wearing a configuration of armor that is designed specifically for use with the great bassinet is that he's not wearing any mail here at all. So he has his you can actually see the collar of his arming doublet there. You can see that it's open at the front, which would be very unlikely if you are going into battle wearing battlefield helmets. Um,
Hmm.
and if we also go back and have a look at the great bassinet that he is leaning his head on, it also very much seems to be set up in a tournament kind of fashion with an elaborate crest, with a visor with lots of breaths in it. Um, this is very similar to how the great bassinets. You could very easily see this being used in a club tournament, like you see in Rene of Anjou.
Hmm.
Which again makes sense of the fact that there is not really a single piece of mail on this entire effigy. Um, it's also worth pointing out that there is another one of the other effigies, which I have gone and had a look at and studied, which is very similar to this. Also has a great bassinet, but he this is the Arundel effigy. He's actually wearing his great bassinet, and it doesn't have a crest on it. Um, so at this point in time, we're expecting crests to be worn in tournaments, but not to be worn in battle. So great bassinets are worn for both, but the crest is worn in the tournament and um, not in not in battle. Um, So yeah, I think that's really interesting that these guys are very similar, but there's some clues that maybe this setup is for a time of peace, maybe a tournament, whereas the other guy who actually did die while on campaign is set up more for battle, um, despite having very similar armors. Another thing that is worth mentioning is the way that the um, spaulders are separate to the cannons. So the van braces kind of rotate inside the spaulders. The spaulders completely lock around the bicep, and then the van braces are separately attached to the arming doublet underneath and rotate within the spalder. Now, this is very important because of the way that the spalder goes up the neck. So my previous harness, which was a German style, actually had the spalders integrated into the arm harness because they stopped at the cap of the shoulder, and so therefore the entire movement was in of the arm was in line with the shoulder and the cap of it. Whereas these ones, the shoulder piece is actually needs to be less mobile than the arm, um, because it is going up and protecting the upper part of the shoulder, the top of the shoulder, and the lower part of the neck. So we need less movement there, and then we need to add the rotational movement by making the van brace separate and rotating within there.
So similar thing that you see on later pauldrons where the upper shoulder is less
Mm,
mobile, but it's detached from the lower piece, so you've got that more freedom
yeah,
of movement.
um, but that I think is more to do with the overlap at the back. So
Ah, true.
the
Yeah.
what kind of has become famous as the Italian asymmetrical pauldrons overlap a lot at the back, and that is to stop them from locking into the
Nipping inside
the
your cuirass.
key.
Yep.
Um, but again, that shape stops them from rotating as much as you would like, which is why you then need them to be separate from the van brace. Whereas these ones, I think it's more because they're going up um, rather than the fact that they're going round. There we go. And it, oh, what's really nice about this is seeing all of the where all of the buckles and rivets and hinges are. And on this armor, all of the hinges are internal, which gives it this really
Hmm.
nice clean look. Where you just have the barrel of the hinge, but not the actual hinge itself. Um,
The same sort of thing that you see on lots of
yeah,
greaves.
yeah. Now, Alexi and I had a bit of a discussion. So Alexi is the guy that turned this effigy into an armor for me, and he's excellent. He works for Art of Steel, and if you're getting armor made, I very much recommend them. But we did have a bit of a discussion about this part here. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving there. Can you?
I can, but
You can. Okay, so what we've
but
got the
it's the top of your the name word's completely gone.
yeah.
Plastron? Yes.
So the arming doublet, we can very much see that, and then the next line down appears to be another layer before the rolled edge of the breastplate, the top of the breastplate. So we had a bit of a discussion about that. I wondered if this was another piece of fabric that was worn like a jerkin over the top of the doublet to protect the doublet from the armor. But that would really kind of push the top of the breastplate really quite low down. Um, and Alexei decided he thought that the most sensible thing would be for this to be another articulated plate here, and then this one here to be the top of the breastplate rolled, and then an articulated plate that is attached to the top of that, um, to give more um, more ability to kind of curl up or crouch down or whatever.
Look down on
Yes,
the peasants.
exactly. Which works really well. Um,
Hmm.
and then this rolled edge here actually can also work as a point catcher. So we know in the earlier globose breastplates. You see them in those. You see them in later ones as well. These kind of V-shaped um, additions that are attached to the breastplate to direct points away. This could very much be something like that, where it's just a little lip which will sit the um, under the grand bassinet, so that any blade that gets underneath the grand bassinet and skates up the breastplate will actually be turned aside by this instead. Um, yeah. How are we doing? I feel
It's a lot of detail. I have a question, but I'm waiting to find out if you're going to
okay.
address it.
Um, okay. Do you want to ask the question? Because I feel like I'm
Well, so you've talked around it a little bit, but one of the things that I notice about this effigy, just like at a first glance, is how completely
yeah,
symmetrical it is. And that's even true of the gauntlets, where on different types of effigies you see like different levels of asymmetry, either in like layering or size of components or style of gauntlet or style of articulation and these kinds of things. And I was going to ask, like, is that true of all of the effigies of this type? Is this like a very early example of like that English um, attitude towards fighting on foot, and then so therefore wanting a more symmetrical structure? What?
yeah. So I mean, the earlier armors, like the ones that you'd see at Agincourt and things like that, are very symmetrical anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that a lot of plate armor in Europe starts out as, um, and then um, and then in particular styles or to personal specifications, they start to um, add in asymmetries, and the it starts out small. So the Arundel effigy is again, it's very similar to this one, um, but the left gauntlet has a reinforcing plate on it. As far as I'm
Mm.
aware, that's the only asymmetry in that harness. Now, I might be wrong about that. If other people have spotted another one, then they could let me know. But that's, you start seeing that sort of thing. Um, and yeah, it's it's almost like the way that fashion it feels like it's almost like the way that fashion almost goes circular, doesn't it? Um,
Mm.
you know, people are starting to do it just because you know dad's armor was symmetrical or they're trying to stand out a little bit. um so the Arundel one, the left gauntlet has got a reinforcing plate on it which is shaped just like a shield, so I wonder if that was even
Mm.
painted um to help it stand out even more. Um, but then you start seeing that coming in the 1440s in England, um, and they're kind of playing around with it. So Mitch's harness, um, the Effigy was built at roughly the same time as this one, but it's probably about 5 to 10 years after this armor was made. Would be when his armor was made, and there's a lot more asymmetry in it, even though it's English. So it's not a specific. The symmetry is not really a specifically English thing. I think it's part of the way that most armor in Europe at the beginning of the century was symmetrical, and then it started to become um, popular in some places to kind of play around with that.
Mm. I'm trying to remember if there's any asymmetry on the effigy that I've had my harness made from. And this is where I discovered that all of the images have disappeared.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we've got Augusto in the chat. So Augusto is Magister Armorum. He's an armorer and a rider and a very good chap. Um, and he likes to disagree with me. We don't always agree on everything, but yeah. So the reason why I'm saying that it looks like a tournament great bassinet to me is the fact that it has a visor that would work well in a tournament and he is wearing the crest on top of it. Whereas at this time, the uh, the war bassinets are generally worn without a crest, and also this chap is wearing full armor but no mail, um, not even a mail standard. So that's why I'm wondering if what he is wearing is a tournament is his armor as he would in tournament. We would never know. Um, we can't go and ask him, unfortunately. But that's my uh, suggestion. Um, yeah, and he also says that um, a lot of the backplate arm openings are too big in modern reproductions, which also causes issues for the pauldrons jamming. Which, yeah, it's can be both. It can be both. Okay. Did you manage to spot it?
there's the asymmetry on the Karen effigy appears to just be the reinforce on the left pauldron is slightly
Okay.
larger. I've
Yeah.
just remembered that I probably have a book here that's got better pictures in it than I do, and
Mm.
it tells you how busy I've been. That my book 3 of the Capwell um, English Armour series is still in shrink
Oh man.
because it arrived like 2 weeks ago and everything's just been wild. So
Yeah.
I'm opening it now to go look up the Karen effigy to find
Okay.
out because I have not yet made it down to Dorset to
Okay.
look at the effigy.
Guys, if you want us to do a deep dive on Nick's effigy as well, then let us know. Because this is all a test, really.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
you know, this is the first time we've done
Cool.
this.
Well,
Um,
good excuse to open the book.
yeah. Good. So, another detail that I was really keen that we reproduce here is the way that the buckles go into slots in the steel and then are riveted through from the inside of the armor rather than just being attached to the outside. And it's really nice that this is very clearly shown on all of the um, all of the buckles here. One thing that I was actually a little bit disappointed about is that none of these buckles actually have catches. So I much prefer to have buckles that where the leather goes through the buckle and then it has the prong go through it and then it goes through the buckle again, and that just holds. It's just much more secure. But this one doesn't have that. So there we are. Um, Here we can see the articulation on the arms. It's very much what you would expect from this period. It's not particularly special. There's some really nice crisp lines to it, but yeah, it's this kind of um, articulation is in use throughout Europe at this time, maybe with different amounts of lames in some places, but this is quite standard. One thing that was very useful that Alexi did is adding slot rivets on the inside of this. So we have the rotation that's um, allowed by having the upper cannons rotating freely within the spalder, and then we also have slot rivets that attach the van brace to the elbow cutter, which also allow rotation of the lower arm as well. Now, something that's quite interesting, that Toby Capwell was talking about is that he um, he actually now thinks that this style of armor is probably a French style of armor. And he's been tracing it through in different documents and things like that. He says that he finds it first in French documents, which is really interesting that um, this is appearing in England in the 1430s and 40s. Um, because at that time, England and these gentlemen in particular are claiming rights to lands in France. So if this is actually a a French affectation or being made in workshops in France rather than what what we would now call English, this is them saying this is by having themselves or by wearing this armor, they are making a statement about their ownership of France. They're not Englishmen invading France. In their mind, they are the rightful owners of France. And so they are dressing as French nobility because they actually own France. Just an interesting thought. Like, we tend to think of England and France as they're very separate spots, like hundreds of years of time. This
Yeah,
is within living memory of the English king being given the French throne
yeah,
after Agincourt, right? And these guys um, were either there or their family were there, and so they um, they wouldn't be seeing it as English and France. It's all under the English crown, and many of these guys own land in France and England, and so whereas it may be that this is a French style, um, it for these guys to have their effigies carved in this style is almost a political statement of them laying claim to uh, what they consider to be um, their birthright, as it were.
yeah.
Um,
It
and-
strikes me as interesting because, and I'm going to show my poor sort of 10th century knowledge here. Maybe it's 9th century. I'm trying to remember, but that's kind of what the sort of Scandinavian conquerors did in northern France to create Normandy, right? They took on the affectations of the local population in order to establish themselves more firmly as being the correct ruling class, and integrated incredibly quickly because they were doing
yeah,
that.
yeah, and it was always easier. And you see this all the way to the end of the 15th century. It was always easier um, to style yourself as the rightful ruler returning than
Yes.
the invading. uh,
Yep.
even though,
Yep. Yep.
even if it was
I'm
really clear
can.
that you were actually invading.
I'm just here to claim my ancestral homelands, my family homes, also my family homes of the
Yeah,
country.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah. Um, so Michael says, so Italian armor around 1450 was the most asymmetric. Then other styles adopted some minor asymmetry. No. Um, so I mean, it's very difficult. It can be a chicken and egg situation. Um, Most armor in the first half of the century is symmetrical, and then um, what do you call it? What do you call it where two things are um, developed at the same time? Concurrent evolution or something like that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
basically, like
Con-
it doesn't take a genius to go, actually, I could do with a bit,
concurrent convergent
yeah,
integration.
I could do with a bit more protection on my left side. Yeah. And you see that happening in different ways in different countries. So that doesn't suggest that um, the other countries are adopting asymmetry from Italian armor, but it rather suggests that um, the problems people are facing is that people are finding ways to deal with the armor of the time, and so they need to increase protection, but cannot increase it um, symmetrically because it would uh, mean too much weight,
Or hampering fighting style,
right?
or
Um, and so, therefore, in different ways and in different places, they start introducing asymmetries. Um, yeah, uh, in different ways, though. Yeah. So if you have a look at the pauldrons um, on Mitch's armor, they are asymmetrical. They have a cutout for a lance. They 100% do not look Italian. Um,
as I say, my the pauldrons that are currently in production with ash for me that match the effigy that I've got, which is a much later English effigy. They are clearly asymmetrical, but they are not like massively divergently asymmetrical like the Italian
mm,
styles at the time are.
yeah,
But they are still asymmetrical for probably more likely fashion reasons at that point, I would guess, because it's an Englishman who I don't think really did any continental fighting, so was almost certainly on foot all the time. But
yeah,
and like the minor difference is like you're not getting a huge amount of extra protection on your left from the slight lack of a spear cut out. But
yeah, yeah. Um, and another thing that was interesting about these is, so going back to the effigy now, um, the gauntlets appear to have um, a grounding around the thumb plates. So the the steel is not in scales over the thumbs, but it's rather slightly more enclosed, as you would see on the 16th century pollax gauntlets, which again quite interesting. The These ones as well. the Alexei noticed that the rivets on the thumb plates don't make sense, or don't make a lot of sense. So maybe Augusto could give his idea of how he would do this. But if you have a look, you can see that um, there are two rivets which appear to be riveting the thumb plate directly to the the palm plate. So this was a bit of a confusing moment for us because they definitely have the technology ability, and they're happy to make invisible rivets, right? Because you can't see the rivets on the end of the thumb. So, so the rivets are intentionally visible, But if they were riveted directly to the steel of the gauntlet, if they were both riveted directly to the steel of the gauntlet, then that would really cut down on your thumb movement. So yeah, um, go on.
I I also notice that these are complete mitten gauntlets. There's no
Yes.
fingers
Yeah.
in them at all, which is again different to the later English effigies that you see where you have the half mitten, half
Yeah.
fingers. And I will say that personally, I prefer full mitten gauntlets for like any kind of fighting. But
Yeah.
there we go.
Um, yeah, which is a nut. It's actually different to both the earlier and later English styles, which again suggests that
Hmm.
this is um, again possibly a French style, which is being used as an affectation by these guys. Yeah. So um, we basically went with loose rivets, as Auguste said. Um, yeah. Um, and yeah, you need to be careful about that because you could very easily put in rivets too tight and give yourself no movement there at all. Um, it was something that I didn't really notice until Alexi pointed it out to me, but I thought it would be useful. Now, another thing that we decided is that we were n- going to do what they've done on this effigy and just attach the weapons directly to the fold. So um, there's no sword belt being shown at all. It's just sword and dagger are both attached directly to the fold. Now, it's possible that they could have just been laid there on the effigy because you know, you're supposed to have a sword and a dagger on an effigy. But the reason why we decided that we wanted to attach them to the fold is that the gauntlets are not just hanging in place. I can't
They're
I
hooked.
can't remember where. Oh, it's not here. Maybe it's lower down. Um, go on. Sorry, Nick. What were you saying?
Okay, they're hooked on, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So they have a strap that goes from one gauntlet to the other and is looped over the top of the dagger scabbard. So that suggests that the dagger scabbard is attached to the fold itself, um, and that the effigy carver. Here we are. You can see there's the strap going over where the dagger is attached, and that's how he's hanging his gauntlets. Um, I do need to get a strap like that actually. I'll need to work that out how to make that. So they they also say that they're not constantly attached together, but can be removable. Anyway, um, what I thought that was really lovely is that this is a really personal thing, right?
Mm.
It's not just, oh yeah, we need some gauntlets on there, we're going to put them there. This is actually how this guy wore his gauntlets. He even had the strap on them, um, so that he could do it. Um,
It it makes you wonder what thing that we do with our armor that somebody would put onto a an effigy,
yeah,
if that makes sense. Like what weird thing that you do with your armor that's not like wrong, is just like practical or makes sense for something to do with you, that if somebody was sculpting an effigy of your armor,
mm,
would they include?
yeah, yeah, all the personal things. And here's an example from actually a German armor of the same period. Um, which again shows the sword um, and dagger being attached directly um, to the fold with no belt. So yeah.
Mm.
Um, do you know what? It is getting very late, and
Yes,
um,
I feel like you've offloaded a huge amount of information about this effigy. It's been awesome.
yeah, I kind of also feel like we're not even we're not even done yet.
So
Um,
I I have two things to ask you about the effigy and your
yeah,
reproduction
yeah, go on.
armor of it. Okay, what is your least favorite thing about either the effigy or your
Mm,
reproduction of the effigy? Not to slight art of steel, just like to do with like the historical design or whatever.
yeah. Um, so I am not a fan of the gauntlets.
Hmm.
Um, they are too bulky for what I like to do. But having said that, I don't fight with a poleaxe.
Hmm.
So I usually fight with a sword if I'm fighting. I mean, I usually carry your banner.
We should try.
Uh,
You can wear my finger gauntlets for
yeah,
sword work, and I'll wear the big
yeah,
mittens for fighting with a poleaxe so I get
yeah.
broken
So
knuckles.
I would like to try them with a poleaxe and see if that makes sense of it. Because at the moment,
Mm.
I'm like, they feel a bit clunky, but they look clunky on the effigy, right? So Alexi's done
Yes,
the right
they're
thing. I
quite.
told him make the effigy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Even if you
exactly.
think, I said to him, even if you think it's not going to work, I want you to do it because we we don't know if it won't work until we try. Um, yeah, um, yeah. So that's probably something that that's probably the part of it that I least like. But that's making me
Hmm.
wonder if I'm using them in the right context. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'm very much looking forward to getting uh, a grand bassinet. I very much feel like I like the look of the Spalders. They work really well, but I kind of feel like I want to have different shoulder options for when I'm wearing my salet. Um,
Hmm. Because then you could
because
wear a
yeah, at
bevel.
the moment I can't wear a bevel with them. So yeah.
Okay. And the obvious follow up is like, what is your favorite thing about the effigy and the reproduction that you've got of it?
I really like the fold being unattached um, to the breastplate. I just feel
Hmm.
like I've got a lot of movement as a result of that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I also this is from a rider's point of view. Um, I like the way that the creases are done up. So we didn't touch on this, but let me see if I've got a photo. The creases. I do have a photo. I just need to find it. Um, here we are.
They've got the upper and lower strap, not one around the midsection of your thigh.
Yeah. So they've got a leather tab all the way up the inside of the thigh, which goes around and then is riveted to the back plate, and then the back plate attaches to the front plate here with buckles. So what that does is it adds extra cushioning on the inside of your thigh for when you're riding, and it removes all buckles to the outside of the leg. So you've not got any chance of a buckle getting in the wrong place um, and rubbing
Mm.
when you're sitting on a horse. And I really like that. Um, yeah, it is very useful.
It sounds like it would
Yeah.
be.
um, yeah, I do like having Sabatons as well. I never used to have Sabatons, and I feel like they just add an extra. Um, you feel like more of a tank. Like the more of you that is covered, the more like a tank you feel. Um,
I'm thinking about trying the male
mm.
Sabatons.
Oh, but I should say actually, um, they do also annoy me as well because um, the the effigy shows very clearly how they are attached to the foot, which is not really at all. Um, they just have a single strap going underneath the ball of the foot. Where do we have it?
It's at the
Uh,
bottom. You scroll past it. I saw it.
oh, did you? Can you see it
Yeah,
here? Yeah,
yeah, you can see it there. But there was a full on sole of the foot shot. Feet on the timeline and whatever.
yeah. So this means that if the sometimes this um, strap works its way forward on my foot, and because turn shoes are so soft, that can result in that coming over the top of the foot, um, which is really frustrating when that happens because uh, the whole Sabaton starts flapping around. Um,
It's it's one of the things that I'm not sure about the idea of doing these male Sabatons because they're very often seen with the tie on the toe,
mm, yeah,
and I'm not sure I want to put a tie on the toe of my boots, which I wear in lots of other contexts other than having armor on top of them.
well, you just need proper arming boots.
Yeah, I mean, a second pair of boots is on the list for some time in the next few years, but
Yeah, yeah, there we are. So,
oh, it's super, Zach. Thank you.
um, yeah, guys, whether you're in the chat or whether you are, whether you've watched this later on, please let us know what you think because we tried something new here, and it could be that you've been absolutely incredibly bored. If that's the case, you've probably not watched this far into the video.
No,
Um,
no, probably
so
should have done
we'll,
the call to action earlier.
yeah. Do you know what? I can look at the YouTube analytics. Actually, shows me what percentage people have viewed.
Yeah,
So I should know pretty soon. Yeah, do let me know. Let us know if you want us to do more of this sort of thing. Um, yeah, and if
let
you
us know
have
if
any,
there's a topic that you think we should do
mm,
something like this on.
yeah, a deep
Uh,
dive, and we can get guests on as well to do that sort
yeah,
of thing. Um, yeah, so yeah, um, yeah, Michael, I'm really pleased with the Custodia kit as well. I kind of feel I'm really happy with that, and I need to finish my video on that too. So
I do. I do kind of want to. We should see if, like, at some point over the winter, we can actually like meet up on a weekend that
mm,
or a Saturday or something to talk about like the different tiers of kit that we have, like
yeah,
the light infantry or an archer look or a um, like lower status knight, full harness, that kind of thing.
yeah, that would be good. Yeah, maybe we could get Alex, the history guy, to come along and get some uh, get some photos because that's the other thing is when we're doing this sort of thing, it's really difficult to get photos or videos of yourself.
Yes,
uh,
yes, yeah,
so yeah, cool. All right,
super.
lovely. Thank you very much for joining us, guys, and we will
Thanks everyone. Like, share,
see.
subscribe.
That's right.